The morning show's over, but they're still talking.
This right here, this rambling, boring conversation containing already made before observations, this could be a podcast.
It's Liz and Scotty's Poddy.
All right, Liz, you ready to do this thing?
Let's do it.
It is Liz and Scotty's Poddy. Yes, it has been a while, but we got to thinking, Liz and I both catching up on Yellowstone over the weekend, and it just struck me last night that we had done this back during the first part of Season 5, where we would watch an episode and then kind of dig into it a little bit and kind of give our theories about maybe what is coming, encourage you to share your thoughts with us as well. And now that the second part of Season number 5, the premiere episode was this weekend, so now we can finally say that we know that John Dutton, Kevin Costner's character, is dead. I was a little curious getting into this, thinking that maybe they had some other things filmed and he might have an appearance in the first couple of episodes. How would they get rid of him? But Liz brought up a great point. They may have had to turn such a big curve to get to where they needed to go. They couldn't use any of that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But obviously the episode opens up with Beth coming up to the governor's mansion. Obviously something is wrong, and that's kind of where everything begins.
I kind of like that they just ripped the Band-Aid off, because we all knew that John Dutton wasn't necessarily going to be a part of this second half of Season 5. And so there was no guessing. It just immediately starts in on, okay, something is wrong with John. What's wrong? And then we kind of learn a little bit more.
And I kind of liked the opening scene a little bit. You weren't crazy about it.
No, I thought it was a little corny. Beth screaming just seemed like a little bit over the top for me.
Yeah. And
then when her and Casey go into the governor's mansion trying to search out, okay, where is our father? I thought it kind of took me out of what was happening, because I feel like they were acting just a little too hard for my liking.
Yeah.
So I thought the beginning was a little corny, but you thought otherwise.
I just kind of liked the way it was set up, that Beth comes screaming up in her car and they're not wanting to let her in. And I thought it starts with intrigue immediately.
Yeah.
That not even Beth knows what has happened to the governor, to John Dutton. So I don't know. That to me set it up. I am with you 90% of the time on Beth's over the topness. I don't think it's needed. So I'm with you, and we'll get into that a little bit with some of the other scenes that are coming up. But anyway, that's the way it's set up. Beth thinks that Jamie had a hand in it. Casey's not buying it yet. So it kind of sets it up too, almost immediately, that is the direction of where these last few episodes are going to be. It's going to be
correct.
Who did it? Even though, as you said, they kind of laid it out who did. We know who did it.
Yes, because there were a few scenes in this episode where Jamie is talking with his girlfriend, who, like you said, Scotty, is a part of this big multi-billion-dollar company that Kevin Costner had a hand in kind of pushing out of Montana.
Yeah.
And they weren't obviously happy about it. So she met with like a hitman company.
Yeah, they do kind of like a 6 weeks earlier type thing. And you kind of, apparently we're going to see at least a little bit of the process of how all this works.
Correct.
I was struck by Jamie's reaction when he hears the news, and it looked very real to me.
Yes.
And he was very hurt. He comes down those stairs, and the former governor, who of course was John Dutton's girlfriend off and on, you thought her reaction was a little interesting.
Yeah, because she was very stoic. At some point, Jamie is like, I can't even mutter the words, because ultimately John Dutton, according to authorities, committed suicide.
Right.
And so I believe that is what Jamie was referring to with, like, I can't mutter the words, that my father is dead by suicide.
Right.
And the former governor was like, well, then whisper it to me. And then you don't hear what Jamie says, but her face, I felt like, didn't really have much of a reaction to it.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if she already knew that John Dutton was dead and she just didn't know how he died, or if this was Jamie saying to her, my father is dead, and the police feel that he, died by suicide.
Yeah.
So,
well, I kind of felt like her reaction was, she was like, don't tell him that, was her reaction.
Gotcha.
So I thought,
Okay.
yeah, I felt like maybe she was trying to be that strong woman, knowing because she's a congressman now, and so she was trying to hold it in. But kind of like Jamie did later, if there hadn't been anybody around, she might have lost it and shown that, because obviously she had feelings for him other than, the deals that she's done with him and all of that. So that's where we're going, is how much did Jamie know? How much was he involved? I've said this from the beginning. I want there to be a happy ending with a bow on it, and Jamie and Beth to be family members again and all this. That's not likely going to happen, I guess. Jamie, I go back and forth on Jamie, and Liz and I have talked about this too. They try to have it both ways with him. They try to set him up as this formidable lawyer that other companies do not want to tangle with, and as the attorney general. But how can he be that and the pushover that apparently he is, not just with this woman, but with other scenes, And as you said, they even make him look stupid at times, which I'm like, I agree. How can he be both of those things?
Correct. And I really don't think he can be. And that's where I think Taylor Sheridan or the writers of the show kind of stutter step a little bit, because you get to see both sides very, very clearly, and they just don't seem to mesh, because he is such a pushover when it comes to Beth, when it comes to John Dutton, when it comes to his girlfriends, and he just kind of like measly walks behind them and does whatever they want. Yeah. And he's easily convinced that like maybe, the death of his father was a good thing, or, a lot of other situations prior to this happening. I'm just confused by his whole entire character. I
want so much for him to be a part of the solution at the end of it, and I don't know how you get there from what we saw in the first episode. Yeah. So I'm not too excited about the fact that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, kind of along those same lines, Sarah texted in earlier this morning, and she said maybe Jamie will discover who the killer is and take matters into his own hands, thus getting back into the good graces of Beth, who will be proud he avenged their father's death. Now, that could be a possibility.
Could be. I would like that.
Yeah, maybe he turns on his girlfriend and he's like, you know what? This is not what I wanted. This is not what you should have done, and kind of goes from there.
Yeah. Two things that I have for the last year or so have not wanted to happen. I don't want Rip to kill Jamie.
Yeah.
Which there have been times where I thought that might be it. And then in one of the last scenes on Sunday, Beth and Casey are talking, and they're talking about the trust and all of this. And Beth says, go look him in the eye and see what you think, and then come back and help me kill him. I love the fact that Casey has been, if not always a defender of Jamie, still, he's my brother. He has told him on several episodes, Jamie, you're my brother. You'll always be my brother, no matter about all of this. But when she said that, I just have the feeling that when Casey looks in his eye, Jamie is not going to be able to hide anything, and then all of a sudden it's going to be on. And
yeah, Casey's going to kind of turn on him at that point. I could see that happening. I think if it were to go the way that I think it's going to go, I think Beth is ultimately going to kill Jamie. I don't think she's even going to let Rip do it. I think she is going to seek so much pleasure in tearing him down that she wants to do it by her own hands. Yeah.
My thought with Rip was always that he would just be Rip, and kind of like he did when she said, I need you, and he jumped in the truck, jumped on the horse, got in the truck and came home. That if he ever got wind of this, he wouldn't stop to ask anybody, Beth or anybody else. You would just see Rip headed for his truck to go get his hands around Jamie's neck and just kill him by himself. So because of he and John's relationship over the years. So.
Yes, very much like a father-son relationship there too.
All right, so it'll be interesting to see where all of that goes. Now, just some of the other things in the episode that you like, that you didn't like, and I'll start. I've said from the beginning, I get enough of Beth being a badass. I get it. Beth is a badass. I think they go really over the top with it sometimes, more than they need to. She has established a great television character as far as I'm concerned. But the stuff when she's picking up the trash and she lights the cigarette, even though the cop tells her not to, just being a brat, being a badass brat, I guess that's the parts of Beth. I'm like, come on, do we need to do that? You know what I mean?
And see, I thought that was funny, and I really liked that scene. It brought a chuckle, a lightheartedness to a very serious episode. And ultimately, she knew exactly what she wanted, which was to go visit Rip in Texas. And this was the way out of her community service. And by golly, she got out of that community service.
She's smart.
Yes.
No question. All right. Another thing I thought was really cool. It was good to see Jimmy again. And I don't know how much we will see Jimmy, but that part when, as it was set up at the end of the first part of the season, Rip had to take some cows down to Texas, and they see Jimmy, and I thought, I wonder if he will, my first thought was he'll end up sticking around and helping the Yellowstone Cowboys, but he didn't. He was just kind of there to say hi and greet him, and then he rode off again.
I have such mixed emotions when it comes to Jimmy. I really liked him in the beginning of the entire series when his, plot line was learning how to become a cowboy. Right. In the past couple of seasons, I just feel like his storyline wastes time. Because they sent him down to Texas, and we see a lot of him in Texas, and I'm like, get to the meat of the episode. Let's fast forward this Jimmy stuff a lot.
Well, and there was a lot of talk, too. It felt like maybe that was setting up something moving forward. There was talk there would be another series, and Jimmy would be a part of that, like a series on the Sixes, and that Jimmy would be a part of that, but who knows where all that stands right now. I don't know. But.
And I didn't mind him in this past episode because his storyline connected with the other storylines of the Cowboys from Montana. Yeah. So I didn't mind that, but if the Cowboys come back to Montana and we're still getting a lot of Jimmy in Texas, I'm going to be annoyed.
Okay. Another part that Liz liked was all of the cowboy stuff. I liked it, too. To me, it was kind of like, okay, here's the big time drama plot line that the next 6 episodes are going to be, and then a bunch of cowboy stuff in the middle. Yeah. And then we came back at the end to the who shot John Dutton, type thing. But you liked a lot of that cowboy
I
stuff.
did. I just thought I loved the back and forth between the Cowboys. I think that's always what has made Yellowstone so special. They just do such a good job of the camaraderie between the Cowboys and the Cowgirls, and the friendships and kind of the back and forth nudges. But I get where you're coming from. It definitely did not. It had nothing to do with what was happening in Montana.
Yeah, which was fine. I like that too, especially the Yellowstone Cowboys, seeing them joke around. I like that part. There seemed to me to be a whole bunch of, they had to cram in some cowboy wisdom. So, Rip talks to one cowboy and they're sitting there on their horses and the cowboy says just something very profound and then rides away.
Yeah.
And then they go do something else. And then he goes to the guy who makes the spurs, and the guy that makes the spurs says something very profound, and then Rip leaves. And then in another scene, he's talking to yet another cowboy, and the cowboy says some piece of just homespun cowboy wisdom, and then he rides away. And it just seemed like, okay, it was like boom, boom, boom. They had to cram all these things in there. I'm like, I like those sorts of things, but spread them out a little bit. And we talked about this, that it really seems like these cowboys are real cowboys. They're not actors. And it really seems like Taylor Sheridan tries to get a lot of people some love, whether they're getting paid. I'm sure they're getting paid too, but kind of spreading the wealth a little bit as far as attention and money, and just trying to raise the the profile of those real cowboys and what they do for a living.
Yeah, I told Scotty right after I watched it, I really appreciated the guy that made the spurs, because even just turning into that kind of store head, you could tell that this was a piece of Texas history that only a few cowboys knew of, right. And it looked special immediately.
Almost like an Easter egg for real ranch and cowboy people.
Yeah, and then you find out later on that the guy who did make the spurs was not an actor. He was an actual spur maker, one that was very famous and popular in the cowboy world. And at the end, it said in loving memory of this guy. And so I immediately looked him up, and that ended up being the guy who made the spurs. And so I kind of read into him a little bit. And apparently he's been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of seeks his spurs out, and now they're kind of collector's items.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the Casey and his family story, which it was interesting to see Tate. Tate's kind of like Carter. Carter is the one we were talking about on the radio the other day that, used to be a boy and now he looks like a darn near a grown man.
Yeah.
He's kind of the adopted one that Rip and Beth kind of took in. Tate, kind of the same thing. We've seen him be such a little boy, and last season he kind of grew up a little bit. But it's been 2 years, and all of a sudden he's a teenager and looks like a full-grown man. So.
Yeah, and we kind of see their family searching out and seeking out their new home, their new refuge, especially with everything that Monica went through in the past couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I just kind of felt like that was unnecessary
right.
in the grand scheme of this past episode. And
there were some times where it looked like they were stretching so that they could have 6 episodes.
Correct.
I mean, there was.
Yes.
I get that.
Yeah. And what we were talking about, Casey seeing the wolf, I wasn't a huge fan of that to begin with. I don't like that mythological, like, spirit animal stuff that we've kind of gone through with Casey. But as you were saying, I wonder if this is a good sign that home that they were looking at is what's meant to be.
Yeah, it gets his attention. You see the wolf, and my instant thought, okay, what is this, a good thing or is this a bad thing?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they've got enough room to chase a whole nother storyline arc with the wolf and everything, and him doing another, spiritual outing. But that's why I thought, okay, does that mean it's just a good thing now? They're where they're supposed to be, because Casey did not seem afraid of it or did not seem troubled by it the way he used to. So maybe that's just kind of who knows? I don't know. If it shows up next episode, we'll see what happens then.
Yes.
All right. So in 5 more episodes left, right?
Yeah, 5 more episodes left.
Any predictions at this point, or you want to watch it a little bit more before you start guessing?
Let's see. I think ultimately people are going to die for John Dutton's death.
Yeah.
His death will be avenged and his name cleared of dying by suicide. But other than that, I'm not really quite sure how the next few episodes are going to go down. I am holding out hope. The person who plays Casey, Luke Grimes, did say he thought that fans would be very pleased with how the series ends.
Right.
So here's to hoping that that's what actually happens.
Yeah. Maybe not the perfect bow like I want, where they have a big family hug at the end of it, but that people would be happy. I'm with you. And it'll be interesting to see too, now that the series is back. I feel like there will be more of kind of the social media stories and other people doing stories on things that may give us hints about certain things that are coming. If there is going to be, say, for example, a spinoff with Beth and Rip, that kind of news will start leaking as it gets a little bit closer to that being shot, which might, give us more clues as to what's going to happen for the end of Yellowstone. I just thought, since it's been gone completely for almost 2 years, there's a few stories and rumors, but not a lot. It's like while the series is going on, you get more of that sort of chatter outside of the storyline of Yellowstone itself. So who knows, maybe some stuff like that might lead us to some other conclusions. I don't know. We'll see.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I think you're right in that aspect.
All right. Well, I was thinking this. I meant to say this before we got started, that this is fun. I love doing this. We started doing these podcasts about Yellowstone because this is what Liz and I do the Monday after the episode every morning. We talk about what we're supposed to talk about on the air. We turn off the microphones and then do exactly what we're doing here on the podcast. And we know that other people who love the show are doing it with their friends too. So we're just kind of wanting to share that. I feel bad because I feel like it becomes a little pretentious at some point. I feel like I become pretentious because I don't just sit down and watch the show anymore. I'm always kind of taking notes because I want to be able to talk about it here and say something, that is entertaining or intelligent. And I was thinking about that last night as I'm writing notes. I'm like, you're such a pretentious, I'm some sort of reviewer, which I'm absolutely not.
No.
I just love the show. And I hope that doesn't come across that way, because it's like I'm trying to see too much into, something just so I can have something to say. And I hope it doesn't become that, but
I don't think
if it has not already become that.
I don't think so. I think especially because Taylor Sheridan is so quick and kind of witty when it comes to his shows. That's what I like about it. I like trying to delve in so deep to try and find those nuggets to lead us to what's going to happen later on down the road in the show. So that's what I feel like we do.
All right, and if you want to add to the conversation, we would love for you to do that. One easy way to do it is just when we're on the radio here, weekday mornings from 5:30 until 10. Whether you hear us talking about it on the radio or not, just call us and say, hey, I heard you say this. I think you're full of crap. I think this is what's going to happen. We would love for you guys to do that. Or send us a text message, 800-455-5257, the same number for both of those, or send us a Facebook message. We would just love to kind of have your thoughts as we go along with this, and we ride out the last 5 seasons of Yellowstone. And we appreciate you taking the time to find our podcast, whether it's this Liz and Scotty's Poddy or some of the other poddies that we do, or the Morning Sip, which is another one, sometimes just to highlight a funny thing that might have happened that morning. And you can get them in several places, wherever you get your other podcasts. Just search for Clear 99 On Demand, and then subscribe to that, and then you'll get the notices and the updates of when we have posted a new poddy or a new sip. But other places to get them too, including the app and the website, right?
Yeah, make sure you download our Clear 99 app if you haven't yet. It's completely free, very simple to use. We've updated it recently, and we really like how it looks. You can always search it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find other podcasts, will be there as well.
And it's at clear99.com. There's an on-demand section, same with the app. And, of course, if you just want something fun to listen to in the morning, we'd love for you to join Liz and Scotty in the morning, weekday mornings from 5:30 until 10 on today's Best Country, Clear 99.
Liz and Scotty in the morning.
What is the appropriate amount of time one should spend on picking out a card?
From Michelle, she said, my favorite is my brother and sister-in-law. They go to the card store together and they pick out an anniversary card for each other, and then they kind of swap. Then they each read it. Then they put it back and they leave because they figure if that card's going to get thrown away anyways.
How brilliant is that?
It's so good.
So not so much a time necessarily, but I like to go out and, if you've got an occasion that you're picking for, pick a card for something completely different. Like if it's somebody's anniversary, then congratulations, it's a boy, and then just sign your name to it and nothing else. Wonder if you got the wrong card in the wrong envelope.